Hi, I'm Peter Alsop, and this week's Song to Chew comes from my Plugging Away album. It's called If I Was in Charge. Have you ever seen someone do something and it looks like it's not going so well? Of course you have. And have you ever said to yourself, well, that doesn't look too hard. I think maybe I could do that a little better than they're doing right now. Well, I'd be surprised if you hadn't had that experience sometime in your life. It's something that a lot of us say to ourselves. Even when we were kids, we could see that grown-ups around us were messing things up. If only they'd had the wisdom to put us in charge, we would have been able to handle it, right? Except that when we finally grew up and had a chance to try some of these things, we found out that they're a lot more complicated and difficult than we thought they would be. So, let's listen to our Song to Chew for today. We'll start off with the opening storyline of my Plugging Away album. I play an angry father trying to get his daughter to clean up her room. Here's my daughter Willow acting and singing with me on If I Was in Charge.
But Dad, my room is clean.
Willow, your bookshelf is messy. Dirty socks in the corner.
Those aren't dirty.
Your wastebasket's full. Candy wrappers under the bed.
I didn't put them there.
I want this room perfect, Willow. Do you understand? Do you?
Yes.
You're not going anywhere until it passes inspection. Now get to work.
Well, I think it's good enough. Who wants a perfect room anyway? I'd like to inspect his room. I'll never get it clean. Hey, my Peter Alsop tape. Wonder if my tape player still works.
No batteries.
Huh? What's that?
No batteries.
New batteries. There's some in my flashlight.
That feels so much better.
Oh, thanks. I hate when that happens.
This is impossible. You can't talk to me. You're just a tape, Peter.
No, it's really me, Willow. How's it going?
Terrible. My dad's making me clean my room. If I was in charge, there'd be a few changes. My room would be clean as can be. But I wouldn't clean it if I was in charge. My father would offer to clean it for me. No, I wouldn't clean it if I was in charge. My father would clean it for me.
Yeah, well, if I was in charge, there'd be a few changes. Kids wouldn't eat food that they hate, huh? We'd all eat desserts if I was in charge. And it would be great if you licked off your plate. We'd all eat desserts if I was in charge. And it would be great if you licked off your plate.
If I was in charge, there'd be a few changes. My brother would do what I said. He'd stay out of my stuff if I was in charge, or I'd never let him get out of his bed.
He'd stay out of my stuff if I was in charge,
or I'd have to pour honey all over his head.
Yeah. If I was in charge, there'd be a few changes. I'd make teachers have recess all day. They'd chew gum and blow bubbles if I was in charge. And they better blow big ones if they want an A. They'd chew gum and blow bubbles if I was in charge. And they better blow big ones if they want an A.
If I was in charge, there'd be a few changes. I'd never let anyone fight.
Good idea.
If you hit somebody and I was in charge, I'd slug you to teach you that hitting's not right. If you hit somebody and I was in charge, I'd slug you to teach you that hitting's not right. That's awful. What's happened to me? If I was in charge, I might start to change and start acting like I'm a big deal. Maybe it's best if no one's in charge and we just pay attention to how others feel. Yeah.
Maybe it's best if no one's in charge and we just pay attention to how other folks feel. La 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 la. La 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 la.
I wrote this song way back in the dark ages, 1990. So, in case some of you folks don't know what a tape player is, that's what we used to listen to music on before CDs came out. What's a CD, Daddy? The good old days. I played the bass, penny whistle, and guitar on this song, and Roger LaRocque programmed the F-16 Linn drum machine. Probably the most interesting idea to chew on in this song is that when we find ourselves in charge, having power and authority over other people can go to our head. It's like when Willow said, That's awful. What's happening to me? If I was in charge, I might start to change and start acting like I'm a big deal. We've all seen that happen, right? Of course, we've seen it in politics, but it's the same in our everyday lives. When I was at the Naval Military High School Admiral Farragut Academy, some normal cadet would get promoted to third-class petty officer, and all of a sudden he'd start ordering his friends around and being generally very bossy to everyone who didn't have a rank or rating, just because he'd been given the authority to do that. Maybe it's all part of a learning experience we have to go through in our own dance of life. Do you remember the first time you got to be in charge of something? Maybe it was a game of tag, and you were it. Everyone who was playing was suddenly focused on you. And maybe that felt great because you finally had everyone's attention. They didn't want you to touch them because then they would be it. So they all had a great time running away from you. But then after a little while, if you didn't tag anyone, it wasn't so much fun anymore for you, right? Great and not so much fun, both at the same time. Well, when you're in charge of a project, maybe you get to tell others to do what you want them to do because you're in charge, but then you're also responsible for everything going on. If everything doesn't work out okay and you don't keep everyone safe and happy and productive, and if the project fails, it's all your fault. Sometimes, even though you think you're in charge, there are other people who are still kind of in charge of you. Not always, but sometimes. And depending on who those people are, sometimes they're a big help, and sometimes they're not so much fun. This whole idea of being in charge brings up a ton of other questions for us to chew on, like, do you like to be in charge? Why? Do you think kids should be in charge of things? What things? Why do you think most groups have leaders? Do you think becoming a leader can change someone's behaviors? What kind of things do you want a leader to do? I mean, the list goes on and on. There are all sorts of different ways that people can act when they're in charge. Some leaders work to empower the other people around them by sharing the decision-making. They act like a guide and support for the others. So it's more about building a team of people who are responsible for getting things done. They are empowered because they learn new skills and gain self-confidence. Their feelings are taken into consideration, and everyone shares in the decision-making that orders their lives. Other leaders get nervous about sharing the authority they have. I think it comes from not trusting that others around them have the same agenda that they do. These leaders want to keep all the authority in their own hands, so everyone else needs to come to them for permission or clearance before they do anything. This kind of leadership makes it clear that everyone must be dependent on what the leader wants. They must be loyal and agree that everything goes through the leader, so it's always clear who the leader is and where the authority lies. When the leader demands loyalty no matter what and acts without consulting others, they do it to control people. People with this kind of leadership style don't like it if others disagree with what they're doing. This kind of being in charge doesn't make anyone feel empowered. And why would people want to support a leader like that? Well, there's lots of reasons, I guess. Some people don't want the responsibility of making a choice because they might make a wrong choice. So they want to support someone else who will lead, and then they will follow along. Other people who've grown up with lots of rules about how to behave feel uncomfortable when there are difficult life choices. They ask, well, what are the rules here? Because that's what they're comfortable with, outside rules. And as we know, sometimes outside rules can be confusing when they don't exactly fit what's going on in the reality of our lives. For instance, our parents tell us, don't play with your food. There's a rule. And then they buy us animal crackers. It's confusing. Well, I believe it's okay and even desirable for us to be able to hold two conflicting ideas in our heads at the same time without having to resolve them immediately by following a rule. Sometimes there isn't a simple answer to some of life's questions, and we have to figure out how best to proceed ourselves. In these cases, we don't want a leader to tell us what to do. We need a team of caring people around us with whom we can figure out what we can do to move ahead. And sometimes a team like this will make decisions that don't work out so well, but at least, if that happens, then we have some company to support us in figuring out what to do next. I'm Peter Alsop. Thanks for stopping by. Please subscribe or follow my Songs to Chew podcast, and I'll be back next week with another song to chew. Bye for now.